Yo, YouTube, what's up with your boy? Sports and Fitness Rants. I'm back, guys. Click that like button. Subscribe to my channel. What's up, y'all? Welcome back, guys. Welcome back, man. Got another great video for you guys today. As usual, man, you guys know the deal on this channel. It's all about setting the record straight, stopping the lies, stopping the narratives, stopping them from rewriting history, guys. And in this video, man, we got to talk about this, guys. Shout out to CJ Rivera Jr. once again. For asking me to touch on these Charles Oakley comments, man. And I wasn't going to talk about this Charles Oakley thing. I saw Too Raw touched on the comments about Charles Barkley. And I don't want to focus on the Charles Barkley aspect, but we're going to touch on it in this video. I want to focus on what he said about Patrick Ewing, because I was actually blown away by the comments he said about Patrick Ewing. I mean, he was trashing Patrick Ewing in a way that, like I said, this sounds like Scottie Pippen talking about Michael Jordan, man. It's really sad, like I said, man, to hear these guys talk on these microphones or these podcasts and just say weird stuff that doesn't need to be said. Like the things that he was saying about Patrick Ewing, it wasn't adding up to me. And also, Charles Oakley, my man, you don't sound good. You don't sound good. Charles Oakley sounds like a fool, man. Like he's almost like he's something wrong with him. He can't talk, Charles Oakley. Like, why are we interviewing Charles Oakley, man? And I like Charles Oakley, man. He was a good player, right? He was a really tough, hard-nosed player, man. But dude, you can't speak. Charles Oakley can't speak, man. Sounds like he needs to go to, like, school. Like, he graduated from, like he's got a first-grade education, it sounds like Charles Oakley. Man, dude can't talk. I mean, my God, like, I don't know if something wrong with his brain or what's going on. He's, like, mumbling and stuff. It's sad, man. But anyway, the things that he was saying, disturbing. We're going to talk about in this video. And I want to thank you guys, everyone across the world, everyone across the states, man, has been supporting my channel, guys. Once again, I am truly, truly humbled by all support, guys. All support. And you guys know what to do. Turn the volume all the way up. Hit that play button. Remember, these videos are for educational purposes. And let's roll. So, yes, guys, like I said, man, I want to talk about this Charles Oakley stuff, man. So, once again, shout out to CJ Rivera Jr. For sending me these videos of Charles Oakley, you know, on this podcast or whatever, being interviewed. And they're talking about, you know, he's talking about Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley. Like I said, I want to focus mostly on the Patrick Ewing comments before the Charles Barkley stuff, because we've talked about a lot of this Charles Barkley stuff. I don't know what the hell Charles Oakley's talking about with the Charles Barkley stuff. He's way off on that. But the Patrick Ewing stuff to me was interesting because I did not know this. Same thing with the Scottie Pippen stuff that we talk about. You know, the things that Scottie Pippen was saying, I was shocked. Because like I said, when I was watching this stuff, they looked like they were the happiest teammates. Like I said, I would have thought that they were roommates. That's the way Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen acted on the court together. The basketball players, they had camaraderie. They looked like they had a joy playing the game together. We enjoyed watching them play together. I mean, I tell you guys all the time, anytime Scottie Pippen was on the fast break with Michael Jordan, he would always stop and give the ball back to Jordan. And why would he do that? Because he knew that people were there to see Michael Jordan throw it down. They wanted to see Michael Jordan dunk the ball in the fast break. So Scottie Pippen understood this, so he would often do that, dump the ball back to Jordan for a nice open, easy dunk. Because he understood what it was about. Michael Jordan was a star. They were there to see Michael Jordan. But also, he understood his role. That's how it came across on the video footage. And then we hear Scottie Pippen saying this crazy stuff. Same thing with Charles Oakley. That was Patrick Ewing's right-hand man. When you think about the New York Knicks, you think Patrick, especially in the 90s, you think Patrick Ewing, you think Charles Oakley, you think John Starks. That's what I think when I think about the New York Knicks. Those are the guys that come to my mind during that time. So Charles Oakley was Patrick Ewing's right-hand man. His right-hand man. Remember, they made the trade for Bill Cartwright to bring in Charles Oakley from the Bulls, right? That was like Michael Jordan's best friend. He didn't want them to trade Oakley. Traded Oakley, right? And then you bring in Bill Cartwright, and then once again, Charles Oakley goes to the New York Knicks and really helped them out. You know, had an immediate impact on the New York Knicks, man, because he was a double-double machine, a very good rebounder. Charles Oakley said he was a tough, hard-nosed player, man, a guy that does all the dirty work for you, really good defensive player down low. Like I said, just a good player to have on your team. But when I'm listening to him speak about Patrick Ewing, like I said, I did not know that he felt this way about Patrick Ewing. I mean, I didn't write down everything that he said. I was mostly listening in shock as opposed to, you know, interesting and writing things down. I couldn't believe it. So, you know, at one point he said, you know, he's talking about Patrick Ewing and describing his relationship with Patrick Ewing, right? And I said, I don't care about these guys' relationships. I really don't care. It doesn't matter. You don't have to like each other to be a successful basketball team. You don't have to like each other to respect each other. You don't have to like each other to compete and win basketball games. You don't. We obviously have seen that with Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. That's a great example that you don't have to like each other. Scottie Pippen obviously didn't even like Michael Jordan, but they still won. They still made it work on the court. So same thing what I'm hearing from Charles Oakley is that he didn't really get along with Patrick Ewing. They weren't like friends. Like, I'm not saying that he felt the way that Scottie Pippen felt about Jordan, the jealousy, the enviousness, all that stuff. I'm not saying that. But he talked about how they only went out like a handful of times in the years that they played together in New York. They only went out like 3 times, he said, to go out to dinner or something like that. Charles Oakley, who gives a damn, dude? Like, what does it even mean? Like, who cares if you and Patrick Ewing never went to dinner but 3 times? Now, yes, you would have thought, hey, I would have thought that him and Oakley would have went to dinner more often. Yes, maybe we would have thought that. But it doesn't mean that they're both less than, or Patrick Ewing's not a good guy because he didn't go out to dinner more than a couple times with Charles Oakley. It doesn't mean that Patrick Ewing's a dirtbag now, or he's not a good teammate. I don't know what Charles Oakley's even trying to say here. Because you guys in that relationship, I don't know why that was. And who cares? I mean, like I said, it's weird to me how these guys upset. Like, Charles Oakley, are you really upset all these years later now? Like, I don't get it. Like, you never talked to Patrick Ewing about this? Like, these guys, it's almost like they're having a therapy session on a podcast. It's weird stuff. I think they're having a therapy session with strangers on a podcast. Like, they're talking like, oh, yeah, man, I can't believe this. I can't believe I was never that close with Patrick Ewing. Come on, Charles Oakley. This is like insane, the stuff that you're saying. Come on, man. You're better than this. Like, and then he said at one point, Patrick Ewing, he didn't embrace the city. And he was talking about how Patrick Ewing didn't go out a lot, right, in the city. He didn't go out and party like that. So we're knocking Patrick Ewing for not going out a lot in the city? And he's talking about, yeah, New York City in the 90s was a wild place. New York City's always been wild. And yes, the 90s was crazy because it was the 90s, right? I used to say it all the time. People used to always joke around and say that. Oh, it's the 90s, man. It's hammer time, right? Like, but he's knocking Patrick Ewing for not embracing this. I don't even know, like I said, what that's even meaning. That he didn't embrace the city. I know the city embraced him. Patrick Ewing, to me, is the last great superstar the New York Knicks have had. The last great superstar. And when you talk to a lot of true New York Knicks fans, the real fans of the New York Knicks, they love Patrick Ewing. Everyone I talk to, a New York fan that I grew up around, they loved Patrick Ewing. Everyone loved Patrick Ewing in New York. Yeah, was Patrick Ewing perfect? No. But was he the greatest center of the 90s? No, I don't think anyone's going to argue that. Even the hardcore Knicks fans would argue that. But Patrick Ewing was excellent player, man. An all-time great player in a very tough era. He played in a very tough center era. It was a renaissance for centers in his era. He didn't play in the 2020s. He wasn't going against Brook Lopez and Rudy Gobert, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Jonas Valanciunas. He wasn't going against these clowns. Joel Embiid and his soft butt. Nikola Jokic and his out-of-shape butt. Come on, he was going against legit centers, great centers, and guys that were physical, that were tough. Patrick Ewing had to earn it, man. And by all accounts, he went out there and earned it. Like I said, no, he wasn't the most clutch performer in the history of the game. He had his faults. He had his failures. He had his problems, Patrick Ewing. We talk about the mixed finger roll layup, right? That's a black guy in his career, right? But the way that Charles Oakley is talking is that Patrick Ewing was like a bust or something. Or Patrick Ewing didn't live up to the hype or live up to his name in Georgetown. At one point, he said that he didn't think that he had the toughness that he had in Georgetown. This was talking about with Patrick Ewing. I thought we all thought Patrick Ewing was tough. Go look how many times Patrick Ewing played 79, 80, 82 games. The man essentially from 86 all the way to 98 was durable as hell. He was tough. But now he's saying that he didn't have the toughness that he thought he had in Georgetown. How do you, did you know Patrick Ewing in Georgetown? No, you didn't even know Patrick Ewing in Georgetown. You're just talking about a thought, a feeling that you have, your emotions here. You're not giving any facts, Charles Oakley. Like I said, I'm completely blown away that he would say stuff like this about Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing wasn't tough. Patrick Ewing didn't embrace the city because he didn't go out and party. Like, that's your reasoning? I told you. You can have a feeling. You can have an opinion. You don't like Patrick Ewing. You guys weren't that cool. You didn't think he was that great. You didn't think he was that tough. You didn't think he was that great of a leader. These are things that Charles Oakley was saying. He didn't think he had great leadership. I mean, was he the greatest leader of all time? No, he was not the greatest leader, Patrick Ewing. But he was a good leader because he led by example. Patrick Ewing showed up to work, Charles Oakley. Did he not? He talked about Patrick Ewing wasn't there for us. He wasn't there for you. When was he not there? He was there. I just don't get this stuff. No, Patrick Ewing was not Hakeem Olajuwon. He wasn't Michael Jordan. He was Patrick Ewing. And he was pretty damn freaking good, man. But no, he wasn't that good. He wasn't that great of a leader. I mean, compared to who, Charles Oakley? Compared to who? Michael Jordan? Bill Russell? Like, compared to who? Who was he not a great leader compared to? If you're talking about him compared to the great leaders in the history of the game, then okay. But damn it, Patrick Ewing, like I said, was there. I just don't get these comments from Charles Oakley. I'm not buying this stuff. And like I said, to me, Charles Oakley, I don't even know if he remembers anything. He seems like he's gone in the brain. And like I said, Charles Oakley cannot even speak, man. It's like I said, it's very concerning to me. Then Charles Oakley's... That's how he talks, Charles Oakley. And I'm not knocking him and like, oh, look at this dumb guy. You know, he didn't go to school or anything. I didn't go to school like that. But damn it, man, you can't speak and you're on a microphone speaking. You're on a podcast talking for minutes and minutes and minutes. I mean, it's hard to listen to Charles Oakley speak, guys. It's really hard. And there's no knock on him, all right? I like Charles Oakley. Like I said, I was behind Charles Oakley when that whole incident happened a couple years ago in Madison Square Garden. I think most of us were behind Charles Oakley because this guy Dolan's he's a dirtbag Dolan. So we were all supporting Charles Oakley. We were all behind Charles Oakley. We all agreed that Charles Oakley was being screwed right there. But damn it, Charles Oakley, this is what you're talking about with Patrick Ewing? You're trying to tear down, you're cramping on Patrick Ewing. You're tearing him down. You're trashing Patrick Ewing with things to me that are lies. It's not accurate. You're not being accurate about Patrick Ewing. You're telling it in your emotions about Patrick Ewing, but you're not highlighting it with any examples here. All right? He talked about Patrick Ewing's leadership, right? He talked about how when they would, they never could win. He was like, oh, Patrick Ewing wasn't a winner. Like, who else won, though, in that era? Patrick Ewing didn't, he didn't team hop to win. He didn't ring chase to win. He didn't join Michael Jordan, right? He didn't join Charles Barkley. He didn't join Clyde Drexler. He didn't join any of these other guys, Reggie Miller, right? He didn't join Karl Malone and John Stockton. Like, he didn't group up or team up to go at Michael Jordan, because at one point he said something about Patrick Ewing wanted to beat Jordan, and he said that like that was a bad thing. He was like, oh, Patrick Ewing, he wasn't focused the right way. Like, and I'm like, what is... Charles Oakley doesn't even know what he's talking. He's all over the place. Trying to listen to him is like listening to someone speak with cotton balls in their mouth, man. And like I said, he's all over the place with the points that he was trying to make. I was completely lost listening to him. That's why I couldn't even really write any of this stuff down and say, yeah, I'm going to write this down and respond to it, because he just said a bunch of weird things. I was lost. It's like I'm trying to go through a maze listening to him. But like I said, he was knocking Patrick Ewing for not winning. And then he... Dude, you guys went against Michael Jordan and the Bulls. Like, he was trying to, like, knock Patrick Ewing and saying, like, almost like it was his fault while they never won. Like, I just don't get, like, he never developed or something. He said something like that, and he never, like, I don't know what you're saying, Charles Oakley. Patrick Ewing kept coming back year after year. I think a lot of us respect him for that. Like I said, he didn't dip out and team up and like I said, try to ring chase by teaming up with other guys to beat Michael Jordan. He didn't lead the conference, right? Every year he kept coming back, Charles Oakley, but he says that he didn't have their backs. I don't get this, man. Like I said, anytime I watched the New York Knicks, and I watched the New York Knicks a lot growing up, man, because I'm from New York, I always saw Patrick Ewing backing these guys up. Like I said, John Starks gets beat in the perimeter, Gerald Wilkins got beat in the perimeter, whoever it was. Patrick Ewing's down low to contest these shots. The man's one of the great shot blockers in the history of the game, but Charles Oakley's acting like the man wasn't there. He wasn't doing anything. He didn't back them up. I don't know, man. Like I said, it's just weird stuff when I'm hearing from Charles Oakley. It doesn't add up. I'm not saying Patrick Ewing was perfect. Patrick Ewing was the greatest center of all time, the best player of the 90s. I mean, like I said, you could argue that he's not the greatest Knick of all time, right? We could argue the Wolf, Clyde Frazier, the Willis Reeds as the greatest Knicks of all time. Some of these guys that played in the history of the New York Knicks franchise. But Patrick Ewing's up there, man. Greatest Knick of all time. I mean, he's up there. Like I said, to me, the last great superstar for the New York Knicks was Patrick Ewing. They're hoping Jalen Brunson could do something like that, but he ain't Patrick Ewing, man. Carmelo Anthony wasn't Patrick Ewing. And like I said, he was there all those years, Charles Oakley, and you're going to trash him like this? Talking about he wasn't a winner. Talking about he didn't have our back. He didn't embrace the city. He didn't embrace the city. The city embraced Patrick Ewing. I know that. I don't know if Charles Oakley will agree with that, but I'm pretty sure that they did. Like I said, all the New York Knicks fans I've been around in my lifetime, everyone loves Patrick Ewing. Like I said, no, the Knicks did not win a championship. But we're going to blame Patrick Ewing, though, is the reason why they never won a championship? There's a bunch of different reasons why. And one of the biggest reasons was because he played a great era against great players. Yes, Hakeem Olajuwon beat them in 1994. Was that because of Patrick Ewing? He was terrible in the finals? No, he wasn't terrible. Was he better than Hakeem Olajuwon? No, he wasn't better than Hakeem Olajuwon. But I think we could put a lot of blame on John Starks and some of the other guys. I'm not blaming John Starks individually, but damn it, everyone played a role in the Knicks losing up 3-2. Also, we have to give props to Hakeem Olajuwon for being Hakeem Olajuwon. We can't take away from Patrick Ewing to be like, oh yeah, Patrick Ewing was trash, man. He lost. Dude, you lost Hakeem Olajuwon. Ain't no shame in that. You lost to Michael Jordan. There's no shame in this. No shame at all. It's disturbing. Charles Oakley, man, come on. You sound ridiculous, man. And like I said, nobody wants to hear you say this. What are you doing? Just makes you look terrible, and you're not doing anything for Patrick Ewing. But it makes you look worse than Patrick Ewing does. You're trying to trash Patrick Ewing. Like I said, I don't get it, man. I just don't get it. And then they started talking about, Patrick Ewing, is he overrated? The guy, these fools who ask these guys these questions, I'm telling you, man, these guys in these podcasts, these interviewers, they're a bunch of clowns. Bunch of fools who don't know nothing. So he's like, oh, is Patrick Ewing overrated? And Charles Oakley, to his credit, he didn't think Patrick Ewing was overrated, but then they proceed to talk about guys like Hakeem Olajuwon and David Robinson, and basically saying, like, the guy doing the interview here, he's like, he's not even close to Hakeem Olajuwon. It's disrespect to even mention him with Hakeem Olajuwon. It's not disrespect to mention Patrick Ewing with Hakeem Olajuwon, because that was Hakeem Olajuwon's competition. The reason why Hakeem Olajuwon, one of the reasons why he's thought about as being as great as he was, is because he went against guys like Patrick Ewing. But now you're going to turn around and say, oh, he shouldn't even be mentioned with Hakeem Olajuwon. That's disrespect to Hakeem. No, if you wanted to say that Patrick Ewing was greater than Hakeem Olajuwon, then yes, I don't think that's accurate. And I don't think anyone would actually make that argument. That to me would be kind of weird to say. But just to put him in that category, in that conversation with Hakeem Olajuwon, that's disrespectful to Hakeem Olajuwon. Like I said, the reason why the David Robinsons, the Hakeem Olajuwons, the Patrick Ewings, right, the Dikembe Mutombos, the Shaquille O'Neals, the Alonzo Mournings, the Mark Eatons, the Rick Smiths, the Robert Parishes, right, the Brad Daugherty, the reason why those guys are recognized as who they are is because they went against each other. If Hakeem Olajuwon was playing in this era, he would not be recognized as that great, because we would be saying, yeah, Hakeem Olajuwon could do X, Y, Z, because you're going against Rudy Gobert, because you're going against Jaren Jackson Jr., you're going against Bam Adebayo, right? You're going against Jonas Valanciunas, you're going against Ivica Zubac, you're going against Isaiah Hartenstein. That's why you look as great as you do. It's what we talk about with Nikola Jokic, the Joel Embiids. There are no premier centers in this era. So how great could you really be? It won't allow you to be that great. So the reason why those guys are recognized as so great, the guys from the 90s, because there were so many of them and they were going against each other. I told you guys, if Patrick Ewing played in this era, if he played over the last 10 seasons, let's say, Patrick Ewing would be recognized as maybe a top 5 center of all time. They're probably going to call Jokic that way. Patrick Ewing would be crazy out here. I told you he would probably be a 4 or 5-time Defensive Player of the Year award winner in this era. So what does that do for his resume? What does that do for his rankings now? I guarantee you he would have at least 1 or 2 MVPs if he played over the last 10 seasons, Patrick Ewing. He'd have about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks titles on his resume if he played over the last 10 years now. He would be labeled as one of the dominant centers in the history of the game because of his stats, because of the accolades he got, because he played in a weak era. Patrick Ewing played in a stout era, man, where every night you had to bring it. You had to bring it every night. You had to get beat down and be tough physically. He had to deal with the New York press, the New York media, the New York fans, year after year after year, going against Michael Jordan, year after year after year. Right? The rivalry between the Pacers, the rivalries with the Miami Heat. Patrick Ewing was there for all that, Charles Oakley. You going to act dumb now and talk about Patrick Ewing wasn't this or Patrick Ewing wasn't that? He was the greatest player of the 90s for the New York Knicks by far. Charles Oakley, you name me the great players Patrick Ewing was playing with. Name them. Name the great players. You, Starks. You were the best players he had in his team. Gerald Wilkins, Kiki Vandeweghe. So what are we talking about later on when Patrick Ewing was already done and dealing with a lot of injuries? The Allen Houstons, the Latrell Sprewells, an older Larry Johnson. Come on, man. Charles Oakley, stop this nonsense. Acting like Patrick Ewing was playing with all these stacked teams. Yeah, all these great players around him, but he was choking it up. Oh, it's Patrick Ewing's fault. We ain't win nothing because of him. The Knicks ain't win because of Patrick Ewing? The Knicks didn't win because they played against the dynasty freaking Bulls, man. The hell you talking about, Oakley? And real briefly on this Charles Barkley stuff that he said, I don't understand. We all know he has a personal thing with Charles Barkley, so he talks reckless about Charles Barkley. You won't even be honest about Charles. He's trying to lie about Charles Barkley, which is, like I said, weird to me because I respect Charles Oakley. But damn it, dude. Like, my God, you don't understand the difference between what Charles Barkley did going to the Rockets Like, you're really trying to argue he's a hypocrite for talking about ring chasers and super team builders? You're going to sit there and say Charles Barkley was like that when he went to the Rockets? Ring chasing was a thing back in the day, but it was never a thing as far as you building a super team or you stacking up the odds in your favor. I'm sorry, but the Houston Rockets are favored to win the championship when Charles Barkley got there? No, they were not. They weren't the favorite to win the championship. Not at all, guys. When Charles Barkley went to the Rockets, that was his last All-Star appearance. His last All-Star appearance, Charles Oakley. Hakeem Olajuwon, that was his last All-Star appearance. That was his last All-Star appearance for all three of those guys in 1997, guys. Last All-Star appearance. All-Star, guys. That's a popularity vote. And they never made an All-Star appearance again after 1997. But you want to talk about Charles Barkley was a hypocrite? No, Oakley, you're a hypocrite. And you sound insane about what you're saying, like I said. And you don't even sound healthy. You don't even sound like you should be talking. You should stop talking because it's sad and embarrassing to listen to you, Charles Oakley. I said it's really sad listening to you speak. What's Charles Oakley, 64, 61, 62? In his early 60s, I want to say Charles Oakley is. And he sounds like he's 100 years old. He sounds like that. Not saying he don't look good or he can't move. I'm not saying that. That man sounds terrible. He should not be, no one should be interviewing Charles Oakley. No one should. He's just telling weird stories that don't make any sense. And he sounds like a crazy person, a guy who's lost all of his faculties. He's not there in the brain. Like I said, nothing comes out the mouth. It don't come, like the signal from the brain to the mouth to speak, there's something wrong there, man. There's like a roadblock there. It's a construction zone. It ain't coming. And like I said, it's very awkward and cringy listening to him speak because of that. And the things that he says don't make any sense. You're trashing Charles Barkley when you know the truth. Like I said, Charles Barkley went to the Houston Rockets, guys, in his 13th season. His 13th season. Most guys at that time were done playing. If you played 12, 13 years, that's a full career. Even in the 90s, that's a full career. So he went there essentially in his 13th season, at the end of the career. 33 years old, Charles Oakley, but you're going to trash and call him a hypocrite? Charles Barkley is not a hypocrite. He's on the money. And you're the fool. You look like the fool here, trying to make a personal attack on Charles Barkley. Like, dude, that's a dumb thing to say. Charles Barkley went out there and earned it. What Charles Oakley's missing the point here is that he seems to forget the history of the NBA. Because like I said, he's not there. But Charles Barkley faced Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls in back-to-back years in the playoffs, 1990 and 1991, in the second round, both years. And Michael Jordan, that was one of his best series against Charles Barkley and the Sixers. Scottie Pippen was excellent one of those years. I'm trying to remember what year it was. Maybe like 91. He was really good that year. But they beat Charles Barkley's Sixers in 1990 and 1991. Back-to-back years, they beat them, right? I want to say it was 4-1, both seasons. I want to say it was. But anyway, so Charles Oakley, what you're saying about Charles Barkley, it would have been if Charles Barkley would have joined the Bulls in 1993, right? 1992, after he lost to them in 90 and 91, if he would have went and joined them, that would have been the equivalent of what Kevin Durant did. That would have been similar to what LeBron James did. You went and joined a champion. You went and joined somebody from your draft class that won a championship already. Michael Jordan won in 1991. That was his first championship, right? So that would have been like LeBron is going to join Dwayne Wade when he joined them in 2011. Except this would have been right after Michael Jordan won his first championship, but right after he beat them in back-to-back playoff rounds. That would have been like Charles Barkley doing that. Then we could have looked at Charles Barkley and been, dude, man, you went and to try to stack the deck and join Michael Jordan when you were both in your primes at the peaks of your powers, and he had already won a championship and he had just beat you and you joined him. That would have been the same thing. Then we could knock Charles Barkley. Then we can laugh at Charles Barkley, call him a hypocrite, call him whatever names you want to call him. But that's not what Charles Barkley did. Not even close to what Charles Barkley did. Not even close. My man went to the Western Conference. He went to the Phoenix Suns first, right? And then he went to the Rockets 4 years later. Like I said, at the 13th season. And like I said, that was his last All-Star. So it wasn't like Charles Barkley was in the peak form. Like you see these guys now. LeBron James has switched teams and made multiple All-Star appearances since he went to Miami. This wasn't LeBron James' last All-Star appearance. He went to Miami. He went to Miami at the end of his career, try to win. No, that's not what he did. What we're talking about, that would have been like LeBron James staying on Cleveland all of those years, right? And then leaving and trying to join a super team in his 13th season, in his 12th season, right? And like I said, LeBron James has the advantage over Charles Barkley because Charles Barkley didn't come straight out of high school. LeBron James did. So here's all those years, right, that Charles Barkley didn't have. So once again, guys, shout out to CJ Rivera Jr., all you guys out there that have heard these comments, people who've done videos on this. Charles Oakley, come on, man. My goodness, dude. Like I said, I'm really taken back from these comments about Patrick Ewing. I don't get it. I don't, like, what are you getting out of this? Why are you trying to trash Patrick Ewing with all these weird feelings that you have? Is it making a personal thing with Patrick Ewing? Because you guys weren't that close? You guys didn't go out to dinner? I mean, these guys are just weird now, man. I mean, come on, man. Like, you just sound like a bitter, disgruntled, old man right now, Charles Oakley. These guys are not happy with their lives. They don't have any good memories. You want to trash Patrick. You don't have any good memories of Patrick Ewing. He wasn't there for us. He wasn't a great leader. He didn't embrace us. That's all I've heard from him. You guys know the deal, man. I'll catch you guys on the next one.